In the year 2387, the galaxy belonged to the strong. For 3 millennia, alien empires had carved up the stars like territorial beasts, their claws dripping with the blood of conquered worlds. The Vorthok hegemony controlled the northern spiral arms with their bioengineered war forms. The Crystalline Collective had turned entire systems into living computational matrices. The Kahari Syndicate's merchant fleets carried death as readily as they carried trade goods, but none were more feared than the Draconian Empire. Visual, massive dreadnoughts emerging from hyperspace. The Draconians didn't just conquer worlds, they erased them. Their scales were forged from the ashes of 1,000 civilizations. Their ships were monuments to extinction, each one a cathedral of war that had witnessed the final screams of entire species. When the Draconian fleet appeared in your system, you had 2 choices: submit immediately, or become cosmic dust. For over 800 years, no enemy had lasted more than 72 hours against them. And then there was Earth. Pause. Shift to Earth visuals. Humanity's homeworld sat in the unfashionable end of the Orion Arm, a blue marble orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. 2. The galactic power. Earth was a cosmic jerker backwater planet inhabited by bipedal mammals who had only discovered faster-than-light travel 3 centuries ago. They were so technologically primitive that they still used crude fusion reactors instead of zero-point energy, so politically fragmented that they maintained separate nation-states instead of a unified world government, so militarily weak that their entire space fleet consisted of barely 200 ships. The galaxy's elite gathered in their gleaming council chambers and laughed. Scene: Galactic Council meeting. Various alien species. Humans, wheezed Ambassador Crickstall through his methane-breathing apparatus, his bulbous eyes gleaming with amusement. They think their little chemical rockets and primitive railguns make them a military power. I've seen asteroid mining operations with better defense systems. The Vorthok delegates, chitinous mandibles, clicked in agreement. My scouts report they're still using projectile weapons. Actual metal slugs fired through magnetic acceleration. How delightfully ... archaic. Even a normally stoic crystalline representative pulsed with what passed for laughter among their kind. Their entire military doctrine is based on kinetic warfare. They have no psionic capabilities, no quantum manipulation, no dimensional folding technology. They're essentially throwing rocks at The mockery echoed through the council chambers. Earth was the galactic equivalent of a primitive tribe shaking spears at orbital bombardment platforms. But the Draconian fleet, Admiral Vextal, was not amused. Visual. Imposing Draconian commander, standing nearly 3 meters tall, his obsidian scales reflected the harsh light of the command bridge like polished armor. His eyes burned with the cold fire of a predator who had never known defeat. Behind him, through the massive viewport, stretched his fleet over 800 warships, each one a masterpiece of destruction. The humans have refused our ultimatum, he announced, his voice a low growl that made the bridge crew step back instinctively. They will not submit. They will not pay tribute. They claim their world is ... sovereign. The word dripped with contempt. His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Karthok, allowed himself a predatory grin. Shall we make an example of them, Admiral? Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Empire. Vextal claws scraped against the command console. Deploy the Annihilation Protocol. I want every ship in the fleet committed to this engagement. When we're finished, there won't be enough of Earth left to use as target practice. The Draconian Empire had spoken. Earth would burn. Seen Earth's response. But in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, something ancient stirred. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the command center of Deep Station Alpha, a facility that officially didn't exist. The complex had been carved from the abyssal plane itself, its bioluminescent walls pulsing with an energy that predated human civilization by millions of years. Around him, technicians worked at consoles that seemed to grow from the organic architecture itself. Their screens displayed information that would have shattered the understanding of any conventional scientist. The Draconian fleet has entered our outer system, reported Commander Elena Vasquez, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. 847 ships. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding our surrender. Webb's weathered face remained impassive. And our response? We've maintained radio silence, as per Protocol 7. The old man nodded slowly. Around them, the station's neural networks hummed with barely contained power. Networks that had been dormant for eons until humanity's quantum archaeologists had finally learned to speak their language. Then it's time, Webb said quietly. Activate the Leviathan. Dramatic pause. Music swells. The galaxy watched. And waited. Admiral Vextal's fleet moved through the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. Their sensors detected the pitiful human defense forces' scattered destroyer groups, orbital defense platforms that wouldn't stop a cargo hauler, and what appeared to be their flagship, a laughably small vessel called the Defiant that was broadcasting diplomatic overtures. Patheta Vextals, they're actually trying to negotiate. The human ship was requesting a parley. Its captain, a woman named Admiral Rebecca Stone, appeared on the view. She displayed the desperate bravado of someone who knew she was about to die. Admiral Vextal, she began, her voice carrying across the void. I am authorized to discuss terms of there are no terms. The Draconian commander cut her off. There is only submission or annihilation. You have chosen annihilation. Admiral Stone's expression didn't change. Then you've chosen poorly. The transmission cut to static. Visual. Draconian. Fleet deployment. Vextal's fleet spread across the system like a net of death. Battle groups took position around Earth's moon. Others moved to blockade the outer planets. The humans' pathetic defense forces were swept aside in moments, their ships disappearing in brief flashes of light. Draconian plasma cannons found their marks. Within 6 hours, Earth stood alone. Begin orbital bombardment, Vextal commanded. Target their major population centers first. I want them to watch their civilization burn before the Admiral's words died in his throat. Music stops. Absolute silence. His weapons officer was staring at her console in confusion. Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. Power levels are. This can't be right. What is it? Vextal demanded. Sir, the readings are off the scale. It's like the entire planet just became a weapons platform. Visual, Earth beginning to glow. On the view screen, Earth was changing. The blue marble was beginning to pulse with an eerie bioluminescent light, as if the planet itself was awakening from a long slumber. The oceans glowed with patterns that looked almost like neural networks, spreading across the surface in fractal geometries that hurt to look at directly. What are they doing? Vextal's claws gripped the command console until the metal cracked. I don't know. But whatever it is, we stop it now. All ships, open fire. 847 ships opened fire simultaneously. The barrage was biblical in scale, enough concentrated firepower to crack a continent, reduce mountains to glass, boil oceans away to nothing. Plasma bolts the size of city blocks streaked toward Earth's surface, followed by gravitational torpedoes that could collapse matter at the molecular level. The weapons struck and vanished. What? Vextal breathed. Not deflected, not absorbed, vanished, as if they had never existed at all. The energy readings from Earth spiked exponentially. The planet's glow intensified, until it was visible to the naked eye across the entire system. And then, from the depths of the Pacific Ocean, something began to rise. It was massive, larger than any ship in the Draconian fleet, larger than anything in the known galaxy. But it wasn't a ship. It was alive, ancient beyond measure. Its form defied easy description. Tentacles the size of mountain ranges writhed through space itself, while eyes that burned with the light of dying stars focused on the invading fleet. By the void, Karthok gasped. What is that thing? But Admiral Vextal was no longer listening. His attention was fixed on his tactical display, where something impossible was happening. His ships weren't just under attack, they were disappearing. One by one, the icons representing his mighty fleet were simply going dark. Battle Group 7, he barked into his communicator. Battle Group 12, respond immediately. Nothing. All ships, this is Admiral Vextal, report your status. The silence stretched on, broken only by the gentle hum of the bridge's life support systems. On the view screen, they could see it happening. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were there one moment, gone the next. No explosions, no wreckage, no energy signatures. They simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been built, never been crewed, never been feared. Sir, his communications officer reported, her voice barely a whisper. We're detecting some kind of quantum field emanating from the entity. It's rewriting spacetime itself. Vextal's blood ran cold. Rewriting how? It's editing our ships out of existence, sir. Not destroying them and making them, as if they never were. Half his fleet was gone. In minutes, centuries of conquest and expansion had been reduced to nothing more than a bad dream. His officers stared at their consoles in shock, watching their instruments report the impossible. All remaining ships, Vextal commanded, his voice strained. Emergency jump. Get us out of here now. But it was too late. The entity's attention turned to the command ship. Those cosmic eyes older than civilizations, deeper than the void between stars fixed on the bridge where Admiral Vextal stood. And in that moment, the proud Draconian warrior understood exactly how an insect feels when it notices the boot descending toward it. No, this isn't possible. We are the Draconian Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. We cannot be. The command ship ceased to exist. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the last traces of the Draconian fleet fade from her sensors. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces carefully neutral. Leviathan is returning to dormancy, reported her tactical officer. Deep Station Alpha confirms all systems are green. Casualties? Stone asked. None reported. Admiral, the entity's quantum field was precisely calibrated to affect only Draconian vessels. Stone nodded slowly. Multiple sensor platforms detected the engagement. Ma'am, reports are already reaching the major powers. Admiral Stone walked to the viewport, looking out at the blue marble that was Earth. The planet's glow was fading now, returning to its normal appearance. To anyone who hadn't witnessed the battle, it would look like nothing had happened at all. Send a message to the Galactic Council, she said quietly. Tell them, Earth thanks them for their concern, but we've resolved the situation. And if they ask for details about what happened to the Draconian fleet, Stone's reflection in the viewport showed the ghost of a smile. Tell them we have no comment. Scene, Galactic Council in panic. The council chambers erupted in chaos. Gone. Ambassador Crickstall's voice was several octaves higher than usual. What do you mean gone? I mean vanished, replied the Vorthak delegate, his chitinous exoskeleton pale with shock. 847 ships. The most powerful fleet in the galaxy. They entered the Sol system and disappeared. The crystalline representative pulsed with rapid, anxious patterns. Our long-range sensors detected massive energy readings from Earth during the engagement. Power levels that should have torn the planet apart. But when we sent scout ships to investigate, they found nothing. No wreckage, no debris fields, no trace of the Draconian fleet whatsoever. And the humans, Crickstall demanded. They're not talking. Every request for information has been met with polite deflection. They claim they're not at liberty to discuss the matter. The silence in the chamber was deafening. These were beings who had carved up the galaxy between them, who had reduced entire civilizations to footnotes in history. They had mocked Earth, dismissed humanity as primitive and weak. Now, they were terrified. We need to know what happened, the Vorthok delegate said finally. We need to know what weapons they used, what technology, what they're capable of. Why? Asked the crystalline representative, so we can defend against it. The question hung in the air like a death sentence, because the terrible truth was beginning to dawn on them all. They had assumed humanity was weak because their technology looked primitive. They had assumed Earth was defenseless because their military seemed small. They had assumed the humans were harmless because they kept to themselves and rarely interfered in galactic affairs. But what if they had been wrong? What if Earth's apparent weakness was camouflage? What if humanity's isolation wasn't fear, but indifference? What if they had been hiding something so powerful that even the Draconian Empire, There's something else, the Vorthak delegate added quietly. Our historians have been reviewing the archives. Earth has been attacked before, 7 times in the past 3 centuries. Each time, the attacking force simply ... vanished. Why wasn't this reported? Crickstall demanded. Because no one survived to report it. And because Earth never made any aggressive moves afterward, they just ... went back to their normal routines, as if nothing had happened. The implications were staggering. For 300 years, various powers had sent fleets to conquer or destroy Earth. Pirates, raiders, even a few minor empires looking to make a name for themselves. All had disappeared without a trace. And all this time, the galaxy had assumed they had simply gotten lost in space, or destroyed by some natural phenomenon. Now they knew better. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the depth of Deep Station Alpha, watching the bioluminescent walls pulse with satisfied energy. Around him, the station's neural networks were returning to their dormant state, the ancient consciousness that lived within them settling back into its long slumber. How long has it been awake? Commander Vasquez asked quietly. Webb considered the question. Awake isn't the right word. It's always been aware, always been watching, but it only acts when Earth is threatened, and we're the only ones who know about it. We're the only ones who need to know. Webb turned away from the walls, their glow fading to a barely perceptible shimmer. The galaxy sees us as weak because we let them. It's safer that way. Safer for whom? For everyone, because the truth was something that would shatter the galaxy's understanding of power, of hierarchy, of the natural order itself. Earth wasn't a backwater world protected by primitive humans. Earth was the tomb of something ancient and vast. Something that had been old when the first civilizations were taking their first steps into space. And humanity weren't its jailers. They were its symbionts, its caretakers, its chosen heirs. The galaxy thought it knew what power looked like. It looked like massive fleets and planet-killing weapons. It looked like the Draconian Empire's 800 ships of destruction. But true power was quiet. It was patient. It was a blue marble in an unremarkable system, orbiting a yellow star, home to a species that the galaxy's elite dismissed as primitive mammals. True power was Earth, and Earth was no longer hiding. In the weeks that followed, something changed in the galaxy. Trade routes that had bypassed the Sol system for centuries suddenly developed a mysterious attraction to Earth's orbital stations. Diplomatic missions that had never bothered with humanity suddenly found urgent reasons to establish embassies in Geneva and New York. The Vorthark hegemony quietly withdrew their forces from 3 contested systems and opened negotiations with the Terran Colonial Authority. The Crystalline Collective began offering favorable trade agreements to human merchants. Even the Kalahari Syndicate, notorious for their aggressive expansion policies, suddenly decided that a more diplomatic approach might be worth considering. Ambassador Krigstau, who had once mocked humanity's primitive technology, now found himself requesting an audience with Earth's diplomatic cause. His official reason was cultural exchange. The truth was that he, like every other power in the galaxy, was terrified of ending up like the Draconian fleet. Earth had spoken, not with words, but with silence, not with threats, but with an absence where 800 ships had once existed. And the galaxy had heard the message, loud and clear. Humanity was not what it seemed. Earth was not what it seemed. And the next time someone decided to test that assumption, well, there might not be anyone left to regret it. The humans, for their part, said nothing. They simply went about their business, tending their gardens, building their cities, and reaching for the stars with the same patient determination that had carried them from caves to the cosmos. But in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, something ancient stirred in its slumber, and smiled.